Presenting about the future of employment in Hamilton is the city's General Manager of Planning and Economic Development, Jason Thorne. Jason is a professional planner who oversees a team of 800 staff working across multiple city portfolios, including planning, building, development, engineering, transportation planning, parking, culture, tourism, and economic development. Jason is a passionate advocate of community-based planning and sustainable and inclusive development of vibrant cities. Prior to joining the City of Hamilton in 2014, Jason held various leadership positions in the nonprofit, public, and private sectors, such as Bay Area Restoration Council, Coalition on Niagara Escarpment, Planning Alliance, Center for Urban Growth and Renewal, Metrolinx, and the Ontario Growth Secretariat. Jason is a Canadian Institute of Planners Merit Award recipient and a University of Guelph alumnus. Please welcome Jason Thorne.
All right, good morning, everyone, and thanks so much for taking the time out of what I know are people's really busy schedules to take part in this event. I've been to a few things in this room, and this is, I think, one of the biggest crowds I've ever seen for any event in this space, and it's really very exciting and encouraging for myself, the city staff who are kind of working on the implementation of this strategic plan day to day, to see that there's still so much energy, enthusiasm in the community for seeing it move forward. So as Keenan said, my name is Jason Thorne. I'm the General Manager of Planning and Economic Development at the city. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what some of today's conversation means specific in the Hamilton context. What I thought I'd do is start by acknowledging a couple of things that we probably don't do enough celebrating about in the city and that we don't acknowledge enough. There's some really big things happening in Hamilton right now. We have one of the lowest unemployment rates in all of Canada right now. That's a really big thing. And we're no longer just the steel city. The number of workers working in the cultural creative industries has tripled just in the last 7 or 8 years. That's a really big thing. We now have one of the most diversified economies in the country. That's big. In 2019, one of our post-secondary partners, McMaster University, was ranked second in the world for global impact. That's one of the big things we need to be celebrating. In April, Fusion Pharmaceuticals out of McMaster Innovation Park announced that it had received $100 million US from international investors for its cancer treatment clinical trials. That's one of the largest investments ever in a Canadian startup, and it happened right here in Hamilton. That's a really big thing. A $50 million galvanizing plant in Red Hill Business Park, a $100 million DHL expansion at the airport, and a $40 million expansion at Mondelez, Canada. Those are announcements just in the last week and a half. That's really big. In 2019, we're on pace to have the most industrial construction in the city of Hamilton in generations, maybe even the most industrial construction in Hamilton in our city's history. Those are really, really big things. They're really exciting things. They're really encouraging things about the momentum that we've got happening right now in the city of Hamilton. So I've been in this role in economic development for just over 5 years, about 5.5 years. And when I started, I could tell you the things that were preoccupying me, that were maybe keeping me a little bit awake at night, was how do we attract investment to Hamilton? How do we get some of the investors and entrepreneurs and developers to notice us and to want to do business here, to want to invest here, and to want to set up here? And I can tell you, I don't really worry about that much anymore, because it's here, it's happening. We've achieved that goal. The time is now for the city of Hamilton. Today, what I think a lot about, and today what kind of preoccupies more of my time, is how do we make sure that all Hamiltonians are part of that prosperity, that how all Hamiltonians are able to participate in those economic opportunities that we have here. Because I really firmly believe that the only really true prosperity, the only sustainable prosperity, is a shared prosperity. And that's become a really significant goal of the city and of economic development. So yeah, we have one of the lowest unemployment rates in Canada, and that's a great thing. But we all probably know someone who is looking for work, or who's in a position that maybe is not realizing the best potential that they can offer, and is below what they're capable of. We would all know someone who's maybe a bit frustrated about the lack of opportunities or some of the roadblocks they're facing in developing and growing their career. Lots of people who haven't even yet entered the workforce who are probably wondering, what do they need to do to prepare themselves for the workforce of the future? And more specifically, the workforce of the future that's here in Hamilton. So there's a lot of really exciting things to be very excited about in Hamilton. But today I think a lot of the discussion is going to be about how do we make sure everybody can be a part of that? How can we make sure everybody can participate in that? And that's really a lot of what planning and economic development has been increasingly focusing on. So we've heard a lot and about some of the big global, national, regional trends, and it's important to be aware of those, to keep our eye on those. We can't always predict exactly what they'll be. We can't control a lot of those factors, but there are a lot of things that we can do and that we are doing to make sure that the city is ready for the needs of the workforce in the future. So with a few minutes that I've got here this morning, I thought I'd focus on just a few of those. So we heard back when this initiative started back in 2016, we talked to 55,000 people across the city. We had over 3,000 city staff taking part in the conversations to gather input and ideas to inform the Our Future Hamilton initiative. And today's conversation about the future of jobs, the future of the workforce in Hamilton is really a direct link to the second priority that I have up here behind me this morning around economic prosperity and growth. What we heard nearly 4 years ago now when we were doing that initiative is still really relevant today, that the availability of an appropriately skilled workforce is a key issue facing all business types, all business categories, and is anticipated to be a major challenge over the next 10 years. So one of the critical things that we did in planning economic development as a companion piece to that Our Future Hamilton initiative was we developed a 5-year economic development action plan for the city and identified a series of actions that we could do to support the implementation of the Our Future Hamilton initiative. And one of the key top 5 actions was to have the best workforce in Ontario. And that's important for a whole number of reasons. It's important to the success of our businesses, that they have the best workforce that they can draw upon, and it's important to the success of Hamiltonians that they have the skills that are needed to actually participate in that workforce. When I talk about the best workforce and the best employment opportunities, I'm talking about employment opportunities for people of all skills, all abilities, all academic achievement levels. That's what we have to really be focused on. So we know that our businesses in Hamilton are doing everything they can to invest in their workforce, to invest in skills and training development for their staff and their employees, but they can't do it alone. There's an important role for us as the city. There's an important role for all of our partners in the community if we're really going to have the best workforce in Ontario. We've got to invest in employment at all levels. We've got to invest in pre-career, working with primary and secondary school students to give them the information and the exposure to employment opportunities that they're going to need. Early career, offering job connections, mentorship, skills development. Mid-career with skills upgrading and leadership development. And late career with succession planning and skills transfer. So these are some of the things that we're focused on. So what has the city been doing? So one of the first things we did, Mayor Fred actually helped to kick this off back in 2015. He launched the Mayor's Blue Ribbon Task Force on Workforce Development. That was over several months working with some of our major employers, some of our post-secondary institutions, to identify a series of actions of what we needed to do to get our workforce ready for the future. We have Starter Company. Starter Company, and actually I think I've seen some faces here that I recognize from some of the Starter Company intake programs in the past. It provides training and mentorship and also micro grants to help entrepreneurs who want to get a new business started in the city. So over the next 2 years, we'll give out about $400,000 in grants to these entrepreneurs to help them get some businesses started. We have Summer Company. Summer Company works with students between the ages of 15 and 29 to give some opportunity, some experience, some mentorship, and also some funding and some micro grants for them as well to start and run their own summer businesses. We have the Hamilton Business Center out of City Hall. They do consultations, they do mentoring, they do access to professional workshops, business development planning for businesses of all sizes in our business community. And they do something like 100,000 inquiries every year flow through our Hamilton Business Center. We have the Hamilton Immigration Partnership Council that's working with new Canadians and especially developing sort of entrepreneurship skills within some of our new immigrants to our city. The city participates in the Newcomer mentoring program. This is a program run by the YMCA that matches professionals with new Canadians, and we have about 40 city staff from a whole bunch of different disciplines who are mentoring and partnering with new Canadians who are internationally trained professionals to help give them some advice and coaching on how to find work in their professions in Hamilton. Every year we do an employer survey. We talk to employers all over the city to find out What is their business growth plan? What are their hiring intentions? What are their skills needs, so that we have the information to try to stay a little bit ahead of that curve when it comes to being ready for workforce planning. So that's just sort of a small sampling of some of the things that we're trying to do at the city. So there is a lot being done, but obviously there's a lot more that we can and should be doing. Through our employer surveys, we know that 84% of employers in Hamilton are either planning on hiring or have hired new employees in 2019. That's a great opportunity, and our workforce needs to be ready for that. So as a city, we can be pretty good at predicting with pretty good accuracy where some of these jobs are going to be. So we know that there's recent growth in the aerospace industry in Hamilton, in food processing, and in advanced manufacturing. We also have some significant new investments on the horizon in warehousing, distribution, and logistics that we know are going to be creating hundreds of jobs in those sectors and professions. These are going to require some element of manual labor. There's also going to be a need for supervisors, office workers, professional service, people that can build, operate, maintain automated machinery and robotics. Those are some of the real sort of skills and job opportunities we see being in front of us in the coming years. But it's important to note, and it was interesting to hear some of the earlier speakers talk about this as well, that technical skills aren't the only thing that employers are looking for. A recent workforce planning survey right here in Hamilton kind of echoes what the earlier speakers were saying. We asked the question, what are the top 5 competencies they're looking for in employees? At the top of that list was work ethic. Number 2 was dependability. Number 3 was teamwork and interpersonal skills, and number 4 was self-motivation. That gives you some good insight into what employers in this city really need and where we should be developing some of those skills. We also have to be aware, and again, some of the other speakers mentioned this as well, that the needs of employers are always changing, and they're changing very fast. There's a stat that I like to use from Dell Technologies from about 2017. They said that 85% of the careers of the future haven't even been created yet. So we don't always necessarily know what those skills are going to be. Workforce Planning Hamilton does some excellent work in the city, and they've got some good advice for job seekers that are starting their careers or planning their careers. At the top of their list is to understand that a career is not necessarily a straight line. In all likelihood, someone entering the workforce right now is going to have numerous careers and jobs over the course of their life. So being flexible, being resilient is a critical workforce skill. Digital skills are never going to go to waste. And again, what a couple of the speakers this morning mentioned is to embrace lifelong learning. There's another quote from, there's a book called, and I like this one because I consider myself a bit of a generalist, and it's Why Generalists Triumph in a Specialized World. It's by David Epstein. And he offers the following advice in career planning. Approach your personal voyage like Michelangelo approached a block of marble, willing to learn and adjust as you go, and even to abandon a previous goal and change direction entirely should the need arise. So in other words, there's no single path to prosperity, and that's true for individuals, for businesses, for cities. I reflect back on my own career. I'm a professional planner now, and I head the planning department in one of the biggest cities in the country. I have no academic training in planning. I can admit that now because I already got the job, so nothing they can do about that. I've got a science degree. I spent the first 10 years of my career as an environmental activist. I didn't have my first planning job until my early 30s. So I think that's a fairly indicative career path of what we're seeing now as people meander and they wander through different sort of sectors and skills as their career develops. And I think that is the reality. That is the new norm that we need to be ready for. And the skills that we need to develop in our workforce have to be flexible and malleable and adjustable to all those different opportunities that are going to arise.